to this session because
Oh,
we're a bit late anyway. So I'm gonna cut the microphone and just pass the music by the time they come in.
you hear me, Luis? Yeah, but I just have to go to the bathroom, but I'll be back in a minute or two.
Okay, I believe we can start. So Steen,
Yes.
have the leadership here. So we have from 11:45 until 12:30 Greek time to discuss
Yes.
about political communication in the day after. The floor is yours, Steen.
Yeah. And the first one is politics, but I love your positive attitude to it. I understand. And I understand also the attitude of, I don't want to speak about politics. I mean, I know people like that really are afraid of anything that way. And it has also been a thing to break up families. But that's mainly party politics. You understand what my differentiation? Oh. Oh.
So we can see the main questions.
Yeah. So you didn't, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So I was just teasing a little with politics. That is splitting up families. I lived for 4 years in Kentucky, United States. And that's the most northerly state of the South states. And they were split completely during the Civil War and still are. Yeah.
I think what we have started discussing at the previous session with Matan, Evangelos, Steen, about the positivity and how politics are engaging with politics and simple people is another thing, another situation, and how simple people like us, as Carl also says, with the people like us movement, which he also wrote about at the book we created, Why Is It Worth Waking Up Each Morning, that we referred to at the beginning of this conference, the first day, the workshop. The importance is sharing and acting actively, each one of us using simple things, even a kind word, a smile to a stranger, to be positive. So this is the perspective and the way we would like to look in politics from the perspective of the Communication Institute of Greece and only.
Well, my first serious article at the university had the title, it was co-authored, Upstairs and Downstairs in Politics and Meaning, Social Differences in Social Structure and Attitudes on Politics. And mostly the don't-knows, who don't know anything about politics and who are not interested.
So just remember that this is an exchange session, so you are free to share your idea based on the main question, even if the chairperson is not able to maybe to facilitate the exchange. So you see the question on the screen, and it's more, I mean, it's mainly like if you can give your own idea on your personal opinion on what's going on about politics.
But I like the idea of the chair as being the facilitator. So I try to keep as much back as possible. On the other hand, the facilitating function also includes that things are moving. And how do you do you say Evangelos or Afendras? What do we call him?
Microphone is
Evangelos,
muted.
Evangela, you should, if you want to speak, you should open your microphone.
Sorry. I just
You got it. What would you like me to call you, Evangelos or Afendras?
Vangeli.
Vangeli. Vangeli.
Yes.
That's a funny nickname.
No, it's the name in Greek, Vangelis, but Evangelos is the most, how we
Formal.
say, formal.
Evangelos is formal.
Vangelis is the name and Afendras is the second name.
Yes.
Like you, the first
Family
name
name.
is Steen and Sauerberg is the second.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And-
I know someone also called Evangelos, but he told me, don't call me Vangi.
And you know, in Russian, you have in Dostoevsky, they have completely different short names, and which is very much in use. And in the United States, you have it for Richard is Dick, and Robert is Bob. All those, I mean, just part of the culture.
Shall we get back to the question, Steen?
Yes. Are
So
there
maybe-
anybody in the room?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. We are here. So maybe the first question: are politics what they
Yeah.
should be in the time of the pandemic? So, anyone willing to open his mic to talk, give his thoughts, are welcome.
I don't see any.
Any other names and people?
No. Generally, there is all the views of the participants, but I only see.
This is an
Natalie.
exchange session, Steen. Everybody can participate, anybody.
I know, but I generally also have the little screens with their faces, or yeah.
Normally you're able to have the screen.
Yeah, but I don't have it now.
Sten i højre,
Yeah,
op i toppen til højre, der står der view.
view.
Tryk på den. Og så kommer der kommer en rullegardin med forskellige.
Ja, den siger standard eller side by side.
Brug enten gallery eller side by side.
Side by side speaker gallery. Let's take gallery.
Ja, gallery.
Ja, der kom den. Tak skal du have, Karl.
Der går.
Ja, du vil bedst lige at blive kaldt Karl eller Karl Heinz.
So this was Danish,
Strong Danish.
very strong.
Very strong Danish from guys from
Was it?
Copenhagen.
But do you understand it?
Yeah. I mean, no, I was in
Almost.
Copenhagen, but yeah, I sensed the strong Copenhagen accent. Yeah.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Now do you see anything, Steen?
Yeah,
Steen, is
Yeah,
it okay,
okay.
now? Okay.
Okay.
almost. I see you, I see myself, and I see Matt and Flo, and I see Louis, and I see Elena, and
Yes.
Vakali, and that's it.
Yeah. So
Oh,
we are.
There,
So
you came.
okay.
Yeah.
So you can now manage your session.
And Carl is there as well. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Who would like to talk about this theme a little bit? The first question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Number one, who would like to say something about our politics, what they should be in a time of the pandemic?
Okay,
Anybody?
I will start, and maybe after that people will react because usually the first person is always
Well,
triggering
I could give an
discussion.
introduction then. Should I?
Yeah, if you want to.
Yeah, and to me, and I use the metaphor of the pandemic or the coronavirus has been a pressure test of all systems we have, on the social systems, on universities, I mean, close to our hearts, on the economic system and certainly, and also the political systems and organizations, everything, and they all failed. I mean, all the weaknesses we see in all the different systems were coming out into the clear light because of the pandemic.
And of course, I do not agree.
Okay.
I think that you're right when it comes to the institutional perspective. If it comes to the actor's perspective, I think we managed to do rather good. Teachers, even some politicians, even some leaders. In our case, for example, in Denmark, Mr. Brosen, which is the leader of the, what is it called, Agency of Health. And he became a pop star and he did a wonderful job. So he was, in my humble opinion, not a failure. And many of the followers, meaning members of the society, you and me, we didn't fail.
Well,
we managed not only to survive, but also to manage in a certain way our daily lives, our job, and even sometimes we gave something to our society or even to the global society. So yeah, but as I said, systems sometimes didn't function as they could have functioned. But this is not new. It always happens in crisis.
Yeah, and to cope what Carl just said about crisis, we had a different opinion in France because I think we've been in crisis since 2019. We started with the, how do you call it, the social strike, also called the Yellow Vest or the Gilets jaunes in our country. And from the Gilets jaunes, we went to the Gilets jaunes to the Yellow Vest crisis, up to the COVID crisis. And we already seen the flaws of the politics based on the first crisis I described earlier. But I think the COVID was some kind of the culmination of the incapacity from the politics on handling the public goods of the society. And that's one part. On the other part, in France, we live in the society where the people has kind of a higher influence or higher opinion on what is going on into the country. Just remember, France is one of the main countries where the public opinion, the people killed their sovereign in order to move into a republic. So every time we get into a crisis, there's always this expectation from the people, for the politics to handle the business. And when they try to give a solution in order to cope with the crisis or any other matters that is going on into the country, we have mixed opinion. We have like one pro and one against, and it has always been like this for many years. So to respond to the question about the pandemic, are the politics what they should be in? I might say yes and no. Yes, because I mean they try to find a common solution for the country. I know because they always do something that is not ethically right.
Yeah, got it. May I just comment on that by saying you have the situation in Paris right now, as I understand it, where there are so many demonstrating against the political system and out on the roads. I wonder whether the yellow jackets are there as well.
Yeah, but demonstrating, protesting is part of the DNA of the French population. They've been protesting since the Bastille takeover, since July 14. I mean, it's like if you are in France and you cannot protest, you're not French.
Yeah.
The only way we recognize us as French people is the ability to protest, the ability to always be against something, even though if these things can be benefit from the society. And we talked about that, I think, yesterday, when it comes to the news information we had in our country. We are basically, as I said yesterday, surrounded by information given by the media, which are somehow owned or intermediately owned by the state. And based from this mass information, it's difficult for people to gather their own opinion and to maybe try to raise their voice by giving opinion to the elected people we give, or depending on the city and the region, in order for these elected people to go into the Senate or to go into the assembly to say, okay, the people think this and we think as elected from the people we should do that. So it's a bit mixed here. I mean, France is not a good example to say that politics are doing good or politics are doing right, because there's always this duality between politics and people. It's really, really complicated, and it will still be complicated until we try to find some common sense. The only time we find common sense was when the country as a whole was threatened, internal threats like terrorists, or external threats like the World War II and the Cold War.
But now it's threatened by COVID.
Yeah, but COVID is not physical. COVID is not.
It's very physically.
I mean, it's not a physical enemy. It has no state. It has no government. So it's difficult for them to have a strategy in order to fight COVID.
Yeah, I agree on that one. And you can't negotiate with COVID, right? But on the other side, terrorists also, there was a time where we didn't expect that terrorists were an enemy, right? That has changed.
To me, it's very often a question of political culture. And in the countries I know of, I've been in, there is public expressions all the time. In France, I know, anytime I see something, or with a taxi driver say, oh, it's just c'est la grève, it's the strike that's going on. I've seen that in Rome, I've seen it in London, and less so in the United States, with the exception of the funny leadership of the number 45, Donald Duck, as I usually call him. And then there has been a lot of public involvement in politics, and that's all over. But yeah. Anybody else? Yeah. Magali? Magali. Yeah.
I am, well, yesterday Margarita told me that I'm very much on Facebook and so on, and social media. And it's true, because I have my former colleagues and students around the world, and I'm in constant communication with them about the local political situation in the time of the pandemic. And for places where I have lived and worked, I'll mention Malaysia, Singapore, India, Indonesia, Australia, and of course, Greece and the US. And when Bastille was mentioned, and 14 Juillet by Louis, it triggered my recent experiences with monarchy. And I must say, I have lived in two countries where I respected hugely the ruling kings, or sultan, as in the case of Oman, Muscat. And I admire them, as well as the king of Bhutan. I admire them because they really were in the role of the philosopher king and did a lot. And very often I told myself, I wish my democratically elected representatives cared as much about me and the other common people as these kings and sultans cared about theirs. In Bhutan, first of all, the king has replaced the gross national product or whatever income with gross national happiness index, okay? And I have had students from Bhutan in Malaysia, and I know what they think. Sultan Qaboos in Oman, I had immense respect for him. And, you know, like we look at what happens at the time of the pandemic. The king of Thailand currently is the son of his father, who was the king and one who loved the people, okay? He's not. And Thailand right now is a mess with the pandemic, both because of general politics and the government response to the pandemic. And vaccinated everybody within, you know, a very short period. And the situation with the pandemic is under control. Oman in the new regime is not doing as well. And I'm also following Malaysia, which is a country where I have very strong bonds, family, and so on. And you have the political response in the context of the pandemic, to be mild, is at least ridiculous. You have a guy in a high position in the government saying, oh, I wasn't in the parliament yesterday because I had diarrhea. This was the first time internationally that I hear a political leader talk about, you know, his physical response to a situation. And the other thing is they have suspended parliament, even though they could have not only Zoom, but it's big enough to have people with safe distances. So my comment on this is that the responses and the behavior and the functioning of political systems has been from one end of the spectrum to the other, from the disastrous and the pathetic, literally, to the admirable.
Yes, I do agree. Still our point on politics, are they what they should be in time of the pandemic? The pandemic is, for terminology, actually the corona, that is the virus, I think if we look aside from the behavior of Donald Duck number 45, which was, I mean, amazingly bad, I mean, everything wrong, then I think that it calls for leadership, of course, when you have a crisis, a pandemic. And now and then in some countries, and that might go also for France, Louis, that there is some leaders that actually are getting a little more autocratic than democratic, and use the situation to, and we had that in Denmark too. as an example, the prime minister handled the situation, and that's true, Carl, very, very well. So some politicians actually did stand up. So of course you have a lot of good examples and you have a lot of bad. And we had demonstrations, but she actually was very harsh and very fast in closing down. And therefore we are also one of the countries where we had very little. Some of the statistics we saw the morning about Denmark with 2% vaccinated are just not fact. But that is a problem here and there.
I think that the question, of course, and this is a normal question of somebody coming from the humanities or the liberal arts, is what do you mean by politics? What do you mean by what they should have been? So in my opinion, and I said that before, I wanted to stress politics is also you, and me, and not only some leaders. And when it comes to leaders, really leaders, I mean, then of course it's not necessarily the prime minister or the sultan or the king or the queen in our case. In my opinion, the pandemic gave the political system, if it is a system, the political interaction gave the chance to new leaders that became leaders because of the pandemic and the management of the pandemic. They were kind of crisis managers at the same time, and they got leaders and people attached authority to them, even in the US to Mr. Fauci instead of Mr. 45. So it depends what you mean by politics. And
Yes.
my opinion is we should not just give the responsibility to anybody else without also taking part of the responsibility. And of course, there are political systems where this is impossible. And this is a problem. This is a democratic or undemocratic problem.
May I just ask, is it true we just have a quarter an hour more?
Yeah.
Okay, then let's move on a little. Just to finish politics, I am a political scientist, actually an economist, but politics is generally defined as power, who's got the power. And well, I can expand on that, but I won't. Number two, then, examples to follow and examples to avoid, and also some of the other ones who haven't said anything yet. Are there anybody else who would like to join so we are not only free for discussing? Any other? Liu, Makri, Michael, and Assad? Huh? Are there any? Are they there? Yeah. Okay.
We are the loudest voice in the session, that's why.
Like what?
We are the loudest voice in the session.
Okay.
But I propose
But
that
then I want others to participate.
Dear Steen, take it as a whole. I mean, the first, the second, and the third, just a proposal, of course. And you might take some names as we do in the classroom.
I just did.
Answer. Yes, of course. Yes.
Yeah. Well.
I mean, if I can, maybe I should start, and usually one start and the rest follow. On the question number 2, example to follow and example to avoid. As I said, I can't say that France is the best example, but I can also say that depending on the situation here, they try to find the best solution as possible. And I think, and Carl mentioned it before, I think you also mentioned it before, Steen, depending on the leadership, there's some crisis, and I wrote this paper, I think 5 years ago. I actually presented this paper in my first appearance in ICCM, actually. And the paper was about understanding the value of the European Union, European institution, when it comes to handling crisis. and to come back to national perspective, I think because the COVID is something not physical, is something not tangible. We try to find the best solution that convey in our country, depending on our national interest. Something that I don't really like of the example from France is always this tendency to compare how do we handle the situation of the pandemic based from the other country. I had the chance every time the prime minister were talking about the situation in France, is always starting by saying, okay, basically, we are doing fine. We do not have the capacity yet to handling the crisis, but we are doing fine. At least we are doing better than other countries such as Belgium, Denmark, etc., etc., etc. So this is always the beginning of the speech of the prime minister and almost the president. That is not focusing on what is the needs from the country. If the country needs, for example, in hospital more beds for reanimation, or more I don't know, more income for people working in the health organization, they do not focus on the national interest. They always, when they present the situation, address the situation to people inside the country, but the message is destined for people outside the country. And that is one of the examples. I don't really like it in my country.
I want to elaborate on that one and go to the international perspective. Because Louis, you're right with the national perspective, but if the national perspective becomes a nationalistic perspective, and it became in many countries. So in the pandemic, France first, Italy first, Greece first, Germany first, Denmark first.
Yeah, I agree.
And this is kind of trying to answer number 3. European Union, they tried at least to have a common take on it. It didn't work at the very end, but there we were on the European level. And they did a big mistake even on that, I think, positive purpose by doing contracts with the pharmaceutical industry that actually worked in a way that, again, it's my country first. And the amount of vaccine for other countries outside, let's include the US, but outside and outside Europe is a scandal.
Yes.
And for example, in Germany, it's impossible because of the contracts. It's impossible if a municipality has left some leftovers in vaccine to send it to, let's say, Togo or to Nigeria. In this case, Nigeria, actually. It's impossible. It has to be destroyed.
Yeah. Okay. If I may return to my example of, and I still think it's a good metaphor, of press test that the pandemic has put a pressure on most systems. And that's very interesting to see all the faults. And for example, as Carl mentioned, the EU showed up all its weaknesses that they couldn't really react as one. And then examples to follow. And that's one of the consequences, perhaps, on the free. That it is a very, the inequalities within the nations and international has been bigger. I mean, all the weak ones got even weaker, the strong ones even stronger. And I mean, also with the distribution of the vaccines, for example, and also all the reactions to it. Poor people are really, and that would be my point about examples to avoid, namely all the fake news that came up, all the ideas about what is going wrong. And that's hitting mostly and strongest the ones who have little possibility or knowledge of fact checking. Is it really so? Side effects of the vaccine, are they really worse than all the good things that comes because of the vaccine? So fake news is a thing to avoid, but examples to follow would be, as we're doing now, having the IT and the Facebook things coming up, and it works. So the system is also showing something that is being much more in use than it used to be. And that is, and then that is tested too on the positive side. Yep.
I have, excuse me, go ahead.
Yeah, no, Carl.
I have another thing that we should learn and try to avoid. And this is telling people in a year, in a month, in 3 years, in 2 weeks, we are going to the normal, meaning the old normal. And then, of course, the next week you have to say, oh, maybe in 2 years, or maybe in 2 weeks, or in 3 weeks. So stop this nonsense about going back to normal. We are never going back to this normal that we had before. And let's work for the new normal. Include some of the positive effects that you, Steen, were mentioning. But don't tell the people we are going back to, don't tell the Brits we are going back to drinking extremely on the beach of wherever, Catalonia. Don't tell the Germans you're going back to party as you are used on Mallorca, which is the 15th state of Germany, kind of. So don't tell the Americans whatever they are told. Everything will be fine. As you said, Steen, not everything. Everything will be fine for everybody. No. And the fine will be something else.
But what I'm still afraid of, and that is, are we able to react? Can we do something to check the inefficient practices? And to me, the major problem, as I just mentioned, is that the inequalities have been growing. And that is a very strong, worrying thing. And we haven't been able to react on that. And I would then say, can we do something also to change the inefficient practices? One, it came and everybody were really unprepared. The whole idea about what do we do when and when the next one comes. Are we ready to do that better? And also the media, they have also been waving on and supporting the fake news. I mean, so the media should also be prepared to have a more, a better policy of publication. Yes?
We have 2 more minutes, Steen. So maybe one.
I'm aware of it, but I was just asking, trying to find out somebody else.
I would like to invite all of you to a project that I have started some years ago. It's a kind of an experiment, thinking experiment. It's about sustainable and responsible communication. What is this? I don't know it, but we have to think about it. When it comes to pandemic, when it comes to SDGs, when it comes to climate crisis, and so on and so forth. What is responsible communication? Looking at the one you are communicating with, not to, and on the basis of respect. That may be one of the values. So let's think about what responsible and sustainable communication is, even in the field of strategic communication, what crisis communication is.
Well, another picture or metaphor I might use is the pandemic, the coronavirus, has really meant that a lot of the little blocks of the society has been pushed into a bag and really rotated. And now it's interesting to see what comes out of that bag and how to put the new mosaic together. Yep, I think that was the ending comment. And time is up. Thank you for participating. Only I would have liked more to participate, but I thank you for your participation.
Thank you all. So hello everybody, welcome in this session 16, Politics and Communication, where Dr. Andjelka will be the chairperson, who is initially in Serbia but now in Thessaloniki, as we learned this morning. So thank you for being here. I see that all our presenters of this session is here, so I will invite Andjelka to take the role of the chair leader and start this wonderful session full of interaction and knowledge sharing. Andjelka?
Just a second. I just would like to ask some technical question. It's supposed to be recorded by myself or somebody is taking care of it?
No, it's taken care.
Good, because sometimes I have not very good Wi-Fi signal, and please take that in account.
Nothing to worry about.
Margarita, I'm so happy to be here with you. And when I'm thinking why you choose me to chair this session, I just could find the connection because I was once in the politics, and about 20 years ago, I was the Minister for Protection of Natural Resources and Environment in First Democratic Government of Serbia. And this is my only connection with the politics, because I hold that position as the expert. And I hope that, of course, I learned a lot at that time and after that, but I'm really happy to hear the opinion of the people dealing with communication about the issue. Now we could start. I think we have 5 papers. First one is by 3 authors, Tomai Volgari, Vasilis Vasilopoulos, Iantonis Skamnakis. They will present the research on the role of Twitter bots in political discussion on 2090 European election. Please take the floor. Who is the presenter?
Hello, good afternoon.
Mrs. Volgari, please.
Yes, first of all, I congratulate you on the success of the conference. Was really well organized. Presentations are of very high quality. So wishing you future successes, and of course, thank you for giving us the opportunity to participate in and share with you our work. So is it clear?
Yes, just put that on the full screen. Yes, good. Thank you.
Okay, great. Well, the title of our presentation is the role of Twitter bots in political discussion on 2019 European elections. The aim of this research is to provide information about the role and activity of bots, troll factories or automated social media accounts in the political discussion on Twitter. Our research focuses on the last European parliamentary elections, and specifically the countries that we study are Italy, Greece, France, and Germany. For this purpose, we collected large volumes of Twitter accounts of 88 total party leaders and members of the European Parliament candidates between 10th of May and 30th of May 2019, based on the content of tweets. The study examined totally almost 320,000 election-related tweets. So we examine the way that political bots are being used as a propaganda tool during an election campaign. And apart from that, we examine if there is any kind of interaction with the Twitter accounts among the countries that our research focuses on. The rise of social networking platforms has entirely changed the way that we interact and communicate with each other in many ways. Twitter only had 187 million daily active users worldwide in the third quarter of 2020. And social media platforms play an important role on electoral periods, as they are not only being used to shape political opinions and attitudes, but they also influence voter choices. In fact, the influence of social bots on the results of elections and votes is attracting more and more public and political attention. According to the findings of 2020 media manipulation survey from the Oxford Internet Institute, disinformation has become a common strategy, as 76 out of 81 countries seeing disinformation deployed as part of political communication. Another research from the University of Southern California and Indiana University showed the sprinting of Twitter bots. According to the findings of this research, almost 15% of Twitter accounts are in fact bots rather than people. It is important to say that although research paper has mainly identified that bots on Twitter have worryingly increased during electoral campaigns, the impact of bots and algorithms on voting behavior has been hard to measure. Researchers agree that these bots are an integral part of the discussion on social media, and actually social bots can automatically produce content and interact with humans on social media. Manipulation of information is called computational propaganda, and describe the way that algorithms are being widely used for intentional dissemination of false information. Political parties and individual politicians as well promote purposeful content on Twitter using algorithmic tools. They can also play a crucial role for fake news spreading over Twitter and other social media. Also, politicians around the world use automation tools in order to manipulate public opinion online. They adopt several tactics in order to increase social media engagement. For example, they can buy a huge amount of bots on Twitter in order to increase the number of their followers quickly. Bots are computer algorithms that automatically produce and distribute content in social networks. Actually, it is unclear who is behind these accounts. Bots raise concerns as social media users are being exposed to negative online content. On the other hand, Twitter is undoubtedly an important tool and the subject of extensive research during the last years. As in contrast to other social media platforms, it enables users to follow as many people as they want without any kind of social interaction. Our methodology. We examined a sample of 88 Twitter accounts of political parties and members of the parliament candidates from 4 different countries. Between 10th of May and 30th of May 2019, taking into consideration the number of engagement actions, likes, share, and comments, as well as the sharing interaction during the pre-election period. In collaboration with the software engineer Dimitris Papaevangelou, we used a platform called MediaWatch.io to collect and analyze data from Twitter. This tool developed in Greece by the team of Civic Information Office InfoFlow and allow users to retrieve data via Twitter. So using this tool, we created a data set consisting of almost 12,000 unique reports on Twitter. We continue with the text annotation. And we characterized all the reports in terms of the degree of importance, as well as the terms of the following categories: hate speech, conflict, propaganda, conspiracy theory, irrelevant. Then we collected all the accounts of users who reposted these specific reports. So we created a user file notes called notes and another file with all the links. Then we created a second data set with more than 6,000 unique accounts in order to characterize the user accounts. So we analyzed the behavior of these Twitter accounts regarding their content, and our categories, the user classification is amplifier, influencer, active, new, or unknown. This board including data visualization of each category. And then by using this algorithmic tool that I described to you before, we created graphs in order to communicate data, our data findings with visualization. In the first graph, you can see the overall network. In this graph, we have highlighted only some influencers. In the second one, you can see the nodes and the entries that we found out per country. And the last one, here is the user classification. You can see the numbers of influencers, active users, unknown new and amplifiers. So generally, we found that there is a strong dynamic on the far right and the right political parties. We found an obvious connection and interaction between the accounts of Matteo Salvini and Marine Le Pen. We even found links to these accounts from Greek accounts. And what is also noteworthy is the interaction of Greek accounts with German accounts. I can say that one of the most significant findings is that during the European Parliament elections 2019, party leaders Marine Le Pen and Matteo Salvini created the trend of a virtual community around far-right political messages and content. Also, hate speech was mainly directed against migrants and comes from far-right political parties. The presence and the interaction of automatic accounts in France and in Italy was quite intense. It is evident that Matteo Salvini had the leading role during these elections. Most of the accounts are amplifiers, more than 25,000. So we can tell that more than 25,000 are estimated to be automated accounts. Amplification bots boost content through likes and retweets and spread information through retweets, so artificially growing the content's popularity. Also, we found out that many Twitter accounts were created during the pre-election period. Politicians use Twitter as a tool for campaigning and posting messages in pre-election periods. They didn't try to enter into a political dialogue with the public. Also, the content of tweets that we have analyzed is mostly reproduction and not the primary one content. While it is considered that social media have changed the way that candidates and their campaigns interact with citizens, providing opportunities for two-way dialogue and interaction, our research findings cannot prove it. To conclude, we face new challenges in the investigation of automation and fake accounts on social media. Politicians make increasing use of bots to feign greater popularity on a social network or disrupt the communication strategy of a rival. Detection of bots will continue to be a challenge. And generally, social media has transformed the modes of political communication, affording a real-time debate. Limitations. The current study has certain limitations. The research project started after a several-month delay, which did not allow us the collection of tweets in real time. As I described to you before, data collection was done through the tool MediaWatch. So undoubtedly, collecting real-time tweets for future study would resolve this issue. Also, I would like to acknowledge that this research is co-financed by Greece and the European Union in terms of the operational program Human Resources Development, Education and Lifelong Learning. And the project is measuring the influence in elections from political bots campaigns. Our research team consists also of my colleague and PhD candidate Vasilis Vasilopoulos, as well as our supervisor, Associate Professor Antonis Kamnakis. So if you have any questions or need further information, please free to contact us. Ending with the references. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the presentation. And should we proceed for possible question at the end, as it was suggested by Margarita? Yes, good. What we learn in the moment is that the politicians of today have to have in their teams the people dealing with these communication issues seriously. Now it is my pleasure to give the floor to the respective professor from University of Copenhagen, Dr. Steen Sauerberg. I don't know, my pronunciation of your last name probably is not perfect, but the presentation is having a title From Cave Drawings to Graffiti as a Form of Political Communication. Very interesting title, and we are looking forward to Dr. Steen's presentation. Please take the floor.
Yeah. So I'd like the help from Louis to, yes, okay, it's there. Yeah, out of 16, there's 16 different ones. And just as an introductory remark, I start with a cave painting because the general idea with graffiti is also, it's the simplest form of communication besides, I mean, the direct speech, since you use as a surface whatever is available, and that's a wall. Yes, next. Okay, so that is the first one, which I like a lot, actually. As I write, I can read it a little of it, but it's the oldest form of paintings in Europe. But there's some in most parts of, in most continents. And these here are, as I write, between 17 and 20, a good 20,000 years ago. And so and I think they're beautiful in themselves. So I wanted to start with the oldest I could catch. Yep, next one. Yeah, that's the first out of 3 case studies where I've been involved, not in Syria, but and it is about Northern Ireland, and it's about Israel-Palestinian relationships, and it's about Syria. So and then with some ending remarks. So that is what you're going to see. And they are very fantastic, and they are called murals rather than of graffiti, because they are so big and so elaborate, and they have been in use for several hundred years. But I don't know how far it goes back. And you have the 2 opposite positions, namely the Catholics, and they want to be part of the Catholic Ireland. And this is a big one. Look, I mean, I think it is something like 10 times 7 meters. That might be exaggerated. And they are fighting for the unification with Ireland and want to separate from the UK. Next one, please. And here is the just opposite point of view, the Protestant part, who want to stay with England, and therefore they are called the Unionists, meaning stay within the Union. And it's actually a very hot political issue right now because of the Brexit, where all of a sudden the border between Northern Ireland and the UK, well, Wales, Scotland, and England, is in the water right now, and is really a political hot subject. So the two narratives, yep, one more. And now it's just a little historical writing. Oliver Cromwell was during the Civil War, late, 1600s in England. And here is the English flag. So it's the Protestant narrative of the history, namely that Cromwell is their hero. Yeah, it says actually that it is a beginning of 1600s. Okay, next. And there's another one also just illustrated of the Northern Ireland historical roots from Prince of Orange from Holland. Next. And yeah, and then it's just that the whole problem for Ireland as such started in the late 1800s with the famine because of the potato that they didn't have the normal production of potatoes. So a very, very strong immigration, a very big one. And its reference is just an independent Northern Ireland, which is also part of the debate now, but not really. It's between joining Ireland or joining or staying within the English Union, the UK, United Kingdom, which it is now. Yes, next. And I felt that really intriguing because now we are coming to the next one, namely the Israeli-Palestinian graffitis. But I like this here on a walk of graffiti 3 years ago in Tel Aviv. I found this here as a graffiti with the Star of David, and stay calm and also keep moving. It's almost the same. And that is from the mid 1910s. And then the English ones, which has become very, very popular, iconic almost, is keep calm and carry on. And that was made by the Minister of Information in 1939, before they were fearing a German invasion of the UK. But look, it's exactly the same formal presentation that the Star of David is the same as it is with the Queen's crown on the English. And they look so much alike. So there's very little doubt that the Israeli has taken the idea from the English. Yeah, and then in the text I say something, but it doesn't matter, it's fine. And then in Tel Aviv also on a tour that we made, and that is a graffiti, but signed though with a one little pen, a figure, and that's not so often that you sign your graffiti. And we were asked then what we thought that was representing. And I didn't know, but I was told that it's two popular cartoon characters for children, one from Israel and one from Palestine. And I just said there, it's a little rich boy and a little poor boy who is trying to connect. And then, of course, it was very obvious that the little rich one was probably Israeli, and the little rich one was probably Israeli, and the little poor one was a Palestinian. Next one, please. Now, we are on the other side of, in the Palestinian. This is from Bethlehem. And it's actually a picture I took myself. As you can see, there's a back and front. And that motive of grip has been used pretty much, that they feel in a prison. And that is the wall that the Israeli built, which is double as high as the Berlin Wall was and double as long. It's 8 meters high. And then they can just from being imprisoned, look out into the promised land. And it is taken up by the graffiti hero by the Palestinians, the English-born Banksy, was born in Bristol, actually, so much we know, in 1974. And now is doing, I mean, completely amazing things, like supporting as much as he can the Palestinian cause. And then he made that stunt of, if you have heard about it, that 1.4 million plus fees. I mean, that's quite a bit dollars. That it was self-destructive, and when it was known to the ones who were bidding on it, and then when the auctioneer actually by his gable on the soundboard said, price 1.4 million is the last bid, it began disintegrating in little piles. And it was, yeah, but he is the hero, and he's extremely well known. By the way, there is the best and most comprehensive exposition of his, 250 of his works in Rome until the 9th of January, 2021, 22. Yeah, so another half a year almost to go if you want to see. Next one. And here, that is Banksy himself with two little boys. I mean, he is a very gifted artist as well, and competent. And I like it. That's a different version of the Promised Land. Yes? Next. Yeah, then I go to Syria and Aleppo. I don't know whether you know the name. Do you? Any of you know the name of Aleppo? No? Well, it is in the northwestern corner of Syria, which is now taken completely by the government, in quote unquote. And I think it's amazing that even when you have, as you can see, a damaged city, that damaged, then there are some graffiti artists, as I really call them, not color as your art. That the art is on it, but look how careful and well done that portrait is. And then you see the rest is just rubbles. Yet. And oh yeah, there are two techniques. One is that you do this very careful work, and the original one with graffiti was that you took a template and cut it out, and then you could spray paint through that, and then you could run, because it was considered illegal and criminal.
You have 2 more minutes there, Steen. Sorry.
Yes. Well,
2 more minutes.
we are very close. I'm very close. Yeah, next. Here we have the same idea, as you've seen several times also. Next. Yeah, same thing. Also think about it, it's rubbles, and they can't live in the houses, but they do it anyhow. Next. And then I was so happy to see that the Delacroix and Louis, you certainly know it. It's one of the most iconic paintings by Delacroix in 1830 at the revolution there. And look at her breasts, by the way, they are completely bare. But that was taken up in graffiti. Next, and that's the last one. Look, that's a wall painting from with the yellow vests in Paris. And here we have the Delacroix picture also showing the revolution. I hope you know something about the yellow vests, otherwise you can Google it. And look how big it is actually. And there's a couple with a little child in a stroller passing by it also, as it is natural to have it there. And then I found, and I was so happy when I found it, that the Palestinians have done the same. And this is on the same wall as you've seen a couple of times now. And that's from 2019. And this is it. And a symbolic representation as the first with the cave paintings, and then with Delacroix has a force in itself. And that's it. Oh, just a little remark. The two last ones, the one in France, she's got more covered of her breasts, and the Palestinian one, they're completely covered.
Thank you very much for this nice presentation. I was not a perfect chair, and we allow you a few more minutes.
Okay, thank you.
We will try to keep timing in the upcoming presentations.
But thank you.
Now we have a presentation, political communication on Facebook, comparing the Repubblica Portuguesa and de la Moncloa by Mrs. Priscilla Minussi. And please take the floor and present your paper, Priscilla.
Hello, thank you. I'll share my screen before I start talking. Can you see it?
Yes.
Perfect. Well, then I'll start. Good afternoon. I'd like to thank the Communication Institute of Greece for the opportunity of presenting this research, and thank all the participants of this conference. My article, Political Communication on Facebook, comparing the República Portuguesa and La Moncloa pages, analyzes the use of Facebook by the national government of Portugal and the national government of Spain. In a nutshell, my goal with this research was to understand the communication with citizens that both governments are trying to establish through their Facebook pages. This is today's presentation breakdown: introduction, objects of study, research questions, theoretical framework, methodology, analysis, results, and conclusion. As social media grows in popularity worldwide, political institutions are progressively using social media to have a greater autonomy in creating and sharing news about politics, and mostly about themselves. This enables these political institutions to establish a direct channel of communication with citizens. So I chose the Portuguese and the Spanish government's pages for carrying out this comparative study because of the cultural similarities and shared history between these both Southern European countries. These are the objects of study: the Portuguese page, República Portuguesa, which you can see the link here to the official page, and La Moncloa, the Spanish page, and here is the link to the official page. My These three research questions guided my research. One, to what extent can the sample of Facebook posts from the República Portuguesa and La Moncloa be categorized within the Paula, Vincelli, and Harrison's typology? Two, which is the dominant category on each Facebook page? Third, which similarities and differences can be observed across both Facebook pages? This table summarizes the typology created by the Paula, Vincelli, and Harrison, which I mentioned in the previous page. The authors created this classification scheme for government communication on social media, in which each individual Facebook post is coded according to the types of communication and categories. A thorough description of each type and of each category is available in my full article, but due to time constraints, I won't describe each one here. Yet, they have pretty self-explanatory names. Look at the left side of the table, for instance. Information provision is related to posts that provide accurate public information, while input seeking, which is just below on the left, is a form of requesting feedback from the public, from the followers. There are 4 types of communication, which are here on the left, and each type of communication is divided in categories, which are here on the right. So information provision, for instance, has 3 categories, input seeking has 2, online dialogue, offline interaction has 3 categories, and symbolic presentation has 4. I used this typology to manually categorize the Facebook posts published between the 1st and the last day of January 2021. The Portuguese government published 51 posts in this period of time, while the Spanish one published 102. So since the Spanish page had double amount of posts compared to the Portuguese page, I randomly selected 51 posts from January from the Spanish page, from La Moncloa. And when I say I manually categorized these Facebook posts, I mean that I didn't use an automatized mechanism of software like what happened in the first research that was presented just now about Twitter, because this is a limitation of this research on Facebook, is that Facebook, unlike Twitter, doesn't allow platforms, softwares to run and collect and analyze data. If you want to analyze Facebook content or posts or profiles, pages, you have to do them manually. So what I did was I read each post separately and taking into consideration the visual and textual elements of each post, I categorized it according to the typology I showed before. A plurality of messages expressed in a single post led to some posts being double-coded. Being double-coded means that some posts fit more than one category or types of communications from the typology. An example of double coding were posts categorized as symbolic acts, which are a form of meta communication that references cultural values, and posts categorized as favorable presentation, which are posts that report positive activity performed by the government. So since symbolic messages are not neutral, they tend to present a favorable image of the government as well. These kinds of posts were double-coded, meaning they fit 2 different categories. But yet, I attempted to apply the categories as mutually exclusive as possible to prevent that too many posts would be double-coded. And at last, this is also the reason why percentages shown in the results exceed 100%. In the analysis of the Portuguese page, around 80% of posts are categorized as information provision, which means the majority of posts was created for providing public information to citizens. As for the rest, around 21% are categorized as symbolic presentation, which consists of the construction of an identity through symbolic content. For instance, symbolic content is taking a clear stance on a political issue or reporting positive activity performed by the government or one of its departments or ministries. From the sample of 21 posts from the Portuguese page, 4 of them were double-coded. That is, these posts were fit to different categories of the typology. And for a better grasp of the overall categorization of the Portuguese page, I gathered the results in this graphic. Here we have all the categories identified in the posts published in the Portuguese page. Each category has a color. The 3 blue and purple shades are the categories symbolic presentation, type of communication. The yellow, the red, and orange show 3 categories of the information provision type of communication. And as we can see, the categories operation and events here in orange, and the yellow, public service announcements, were used the most by the Portuguese government. Moving on to the analysis of the Spanish page, the vast majority of posts, more than 96%, is categorized as information provision, and more than 7% of the posts were categorized as symbolic presentation. From the total posts, the 51 randomly selected posts in the Spanish page, 12 of them were double-coded, 3 times more than what happened with the Portuguese page. As we can see in this graphic, La Moncloa used more categories than the Portuguese page. A total of 7 categories were identified in the sample of the Spanish posts, which are part of 2 types of communication: information provision and symbolic presentation. The orange slice represents a great part of this graphic, and this color was designated to the category operations and events. This category is related to content about operations of the government agencies, programs, or policies, as well as information about public events. The second most popular category is the public service announcements. The posts that fell into this category provide recommendations for safety, public health, and well-being. Finally, the main results of this research are all 102 posts from both Facebook pages do fit the typology created by the Paula, Dincelli, and Harrisons. Most posts present information about government operations, policies, and it was noted that there was a great focus on information about COVID-19. Proportional use of types of communication were similar between both Facebook pages. Information provision is the most used type of communication, while symbolic presentation is the second one. The pages didn't publish any input-seeking or online dialogue offline interaction posts. And as for the categories, the similarities linger. Operation and events was the most used category, followed by public service announcements. Here are both graphics from the Portuguese one on the left and the Spanish one on the right. This visual comparison helps in visualizing the similarities and differences in the categorization of posts from these 2 Facebook pages. Understandably, the findings of this research cannot be generalized to other objects of study. Still, they support previous research findings that show that social media, and particularly Facebook, do not foster a true connection between citizens and political actors. All in all, this research leads me to believe that Facebook is not used for deliberative politics. In fact, it seems to focus more on self-presentation and self-promotion of the government's actors and institutions. At last but not least, It is acknowledged that the coronavirus situation in Portugal and in Spain in early 2021 might have influenced the number of posts dedicated to providing information to citizens through social media. That is, maybe there were other topics that were not covered in this post during this period of time because both countries are going through a really bad the coronavirus was really bad in both countries during early 2021. So this is the end of my presentation. I'd like to thank you all for bearing with me, and I look forward to questions and suggestions. And here are my contact information for those interested in reaching out to me after the conference or reading the full article. I will be glad to share with you more details about the analysis or the full reference list I used. And thank you again.
Thank you, Mrs. Menosi. We could move forward. Now we are going to the presenter from University in Belgium, Dr. Martina Temmerman. She's going to present the research on them pushing the limits, how the right-wing Flemish politicians explore the boundaries of hate speech on their Twitter accounts. Oh, very interesting. Please take a floor.
Thank you very much. I think I still have to start the presentation. Can you see it now? No.
Yes.
Ah, you can. Okay. I can't see you anymore now, but if you see the screen, it's okay.
Dear Martina, just try to put full mode. The presentation is visible, but you can press the image to see it in a full mode. But as you want, we can see it as well. Don't worry.
Oh, okay. Okay, so maybe I shouldn't lose time. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to present our research results from an assignment actually we did for the Belgian Interfederal Center for Equal Opportunities and Opposition to Racism, UNIA. They asked us, and us, that's my colleague Raymond Harder and myself, to have a look at the language of politicians, as this center receives a lot of complaints having to do with racism and discrimination. And racism and discrimination can be caused by acts or behavior, but often it has to do with language and the way we communicate with each other. And as my colleague is a political scholar and I am a linguist, and we work for the Department of Applied Linguistics, this center asked us to have a look at the language of politicians on social media to see if there were any hints of racism or discrimination there. As politicians are influential language users, it's important to monitor the way they use their language. So how did we select the data? We decided to work in an election year. 2019 was an election year in Belgium. And we decided to compare 2 months, a non-election period in the beginning of the year, and then the election period leading to May 26th, which was election day in Belgium. We had a look at Twitter as well as at Facebook. For Twitter, we used software which was developed by our colleagues of the French-speaking University of Louvain. And for Facebook, we used FacePager. I don't know, maybe it's interesting to discuss with Priscilla the way software can be used to monitor Facebook automatically. There are 7 main political parties in Flanders. So my colleague and I worked on the northern part of Belgium, Flanders. Our colleagues of the University of Louvain worked at a French-speaking corpus for Wallonia, the southern part of Belgium. So we looked at the official accounts of every Flemish party and also at 2 other relevant accounts for each party of politicians who profile themselves on topics like racism and discrimination. So at first we assembled all messages having to do with origin, religion, or sexual orientation, which gave us this original database of more than 3,000 messages on Facebook and almost 25,000 tweets. And then we manually coded all the messages, and we decided among ourselves whether the language used there was questionable, debatable, or not. And this left us with a corpus of 95 Facebook messages and 102 tweets. And we call these, the language used here in these messages, language in the gray zone. It's not downright racist, because politicians know that really racist language would be prosecutable in Belgium. It's a legal offense. But sometimes we find hints of racism and discrimination, and this is what we call language in the gray zone. So the method we used, first we cast a wide net and we selected all messages having to do with these topics. Then we annotated them manually, and then we try to find patterns in them. And this is typically the way discourse analysts work. So they start from a close reading of the data, they look for patterns, and when they find a certain pattern, they go back to the beginning of the data, see if the pattern occurs there as well. So it's really an iterative system. You go through the data a number of times and you try to establish discursive patterns. And then in this case specifically, we try to link them up with linguistic strategies, because we were interested in the way language works in this particular kind of communication.
Martina?
Yeah.
Just in case your presentation is not moving. Votre présentation ne bouge pas, je pense que ça dépend de l'écran que vous avez. Si vous avez mis le premier ou le deuxième écran,
yeah.
je peux contrôler à distance si vous le souhaitez.
Can you do that? And how do
I can remotely control your presentation if you want to.
Yeah.
Okay, just accept my request.
Yeah.
Good. And normally I should be able to, if you accept my request.
I can't click on approve because it's on the other screen. Maybe if I press enter, no.
I think depending on the number of screens you had, we see the screen with all the slides, but we don't see the full. Okay, now we see. Oh.
Yeah, I'll stop the full presentation, and I think that will be a solution. Yeah.
Yeah, it's better that
way. Yeah. Okay. Well, I hope you were able to follow what I was saying. So I said, so we were able to establish a number of discursive patterns, and then we tried to define the linguistic strategies linked with them. But it's not the case that one strategy only occurs within one pattern. A number of strategies can occur within the different patterns, and you just have this scheme here to illustrate that. I think it's most interesting to go to a number of examples. I have 3 examples ready. You should tell me whether I still have time for 3, or I can also do 2. How many minutes have I got?
9 minutes.
9 minutes. Maybe we can do the 3 then. So the first example, it's in Dutch, because linguists always want to go to the source and they don't like translating data, but I'll translate it for you. So you see here, this Go Back bus does stop at Brussels North, and Brussels North is the railway station. And it takes all scabies, malaria, and TB migrants back to their country of origin. It's posted by a politician of the extreme right party, Vlaams Belang. You see the name of the party here. In English, it would be the interest of Flanders. And it's also important to say at this point already that all utterances actually, which were in our gray zone corpus, came from this one extreme right party. So they all come from the same party. You see this picture here where they call it the Go Back bus to bring migrants back to their own countries. But this picture was an old picture. It was not taken at the time this message was published. And so the content is clear. They want to remove migrants from Belgium, take them back to their own country. But the linguistic strategies used here, you see they call them scabies, malaria, and TB migrants. So the names of the diseases actually are integrated in the names they give to these people. And this is a phenomenon that is easy to do in Dutch, but also in other languages. You can make this kind of compound names. And then another phenomenon is the use of the possessive pronoun, their country. What is also typical of this way of communication is communicating in oppositions. It's our country versus their country, the in-group versus the out-group, and the out-group does not belong here and should be removed from the in-group. This is a process which comes back over and over again. Another example is a poster which was hung in a corridor in a school about different kinds of relationships and marriages, even marriages between a man and a woman, for example. And then another politician of this party says, with this rancid degeneracy, our Flemish children are indoctrinated at school. There is no traditional family on this poster, but there is place for SM-sex, LGBTQ families, and transgenders. So again, we see some linguistic processes which keep coming over and over again, like the use of this kind of terms. It comes from German, and it's a Nazi language, Entartung. And degeneracy is also used by alt-right movements in the States nowadays. So it's a very colored term, if you want. The use of possessive pronouns, again, our children, as opposed to other children, our Flemish children, they are being indoctrinated. It's a passive voice. But who does the indoctrination? That's not made explicit. Is it the school? Is it some other party? This is not mentioned. And then also the traditional family here, classic family, is also in opposition to all kinds of other relationships or sexual orientations. Then a third example is from the same politician on Facebook. Here he posts an article from a newspaper which says, scientists ask for your help, report the presence of the Asian hornet, which is a kind of insect. And he says, and he quotes from the newspaper here, the Asian hornet is an invasive exotic wasp which forms a threat to our indigenous honeybees. And then he adds, scientists call for reporting when you see an Asian hornet so that they can be removed. In terms of language used, again, we see the opposition between exogenous and endogenous, and also the use of the preposition, our. Honeybee also sounds a lot better than hornet. The choice of the name here is also important. Now you could say it's about insects. So what does it say about people? But the addition of the emoji here, the squirking emoji and the wandering emoji, indicates that this can be interpreted metaphorically as being about human beings, and that exotic human beings should be removed from our society. Now, maybe you find this far-fetched, but if you look at the reactions of this politician on his Facebook page, you see that people write things like "our own wasps first," which is an allusion to the slogan of Vlaams Belang, "our own people first." Or "I'm training my honeybees so they can defend themselves against this exotic Asian hornet." Or "all back to their own country." Or strangely enough, this is not about people, but it's exactly the same. So here they really draw the parallel with human beings. And here, is this also for migrants? Really, do we have to report them when we see them? So the phenomenon we see here is called in literature the dog whistle. There is a kind of overtone in the message of the politicians, which is understood by his followers. It's like dogs hear a certain sound, an ultrasound sound, which human beings cannot hear. So his followers react to the real meaning of his message. So summarizing, we found 5 discursive patterns in the whole of our corpus, namely the creation of an opposition between groups, which is supported by the use of pronouns and other linguistic phenomena I will not go into now. The out group is represented in a negative way, often in an inferior way, and sometimes negative terminology, sometimes even from Nazi terminology, is used there. The out group is represented as a threat. Again, we see this in the terminology and in the pronouns used. The state of affairs is represented in a biased way. Think of the term degeneracy in one of the examples. And other opinions are ruled out. If other opinions are mentioned, this is one part I skipped in the previous example, then it's in an ironical way, or people are mimicked, people who have other opinions on these topics. We also see it in the terminology. There is often a mention of cover-up operations. This is what we see in a number of examples. So concluding, I can say that the majority or almost all posts in the gray zone were about origin or religious beliefs. And we must say there's only a limited number. So the other political parties do not use this kind of language. They communicate in a correct and in a neutral way. Almost all messages came from only one party, the extreme right Vlaams Belang. We compared 2 different periods, but we didn't find any influence of the elections in the way of communication. As I said, we found 5 discursive patterns and 8 linguistic processes. They all have to do with indirect and implicit communication. The receivers of the message have to make certain inferences in order to understand the message properly. Within the gray zone, there is still a continuum from rather neutral messages to messages which are really on the border of racist and discriminatory language. And then we have this illustration of the dog whistle phenomenon in the comments of the followers. If you want to read the whole report, it's published in French and in Dutch on the website of the center. And it will also be published in the form of an article still this year in a volume published by Belgrade Macmillan. Thank you very much.
I would like to thank you, Dr. Temmerman. It is really interesting presentation, and I really learned that a lot of similarities I could find with the right-wing parties in the region, in our region.
I guess so.
Yeah, very, very good examples, you could find it. But I'm not sure that the last presenters are here, because I see that we have 19 participants of this session, but I don't see the name of authors Vinogradova Nadezhda and Mr. Razumovsky. Am I right or not?
Do we have the presenters? I think you are correct, Andjelka. Louise?
Yeah, they're not here. They're not here.
Are they connected? So I suppose we can go on with the questions. If the last presenter who was to present political and psychological analysis of the phenomenon of political virtualization, I try once more, because you never know, we are multicultural, international, so we must repeat clearly. Okay.
It will be interesting to see the Russian perspective, but anyhow, we could move forward with the possible questions to the presenters. And I'm opening the floor to, we have all interesting aspects for Twitter, Facebook, political parties, and this is really, I think we could discuss that for hours, but some short questions, if any, to the authors, it will be great. Some hand?
Yeah, I have a question for Priscilla, maybe.
Please go on.
Yeah, so the communication you reported about was only government communication, I think. So it's normal that you can't find the kind of examples we found in our corpus. But were there no opinions or no standpoints, whatever, in the corpus you found, or future plans of the government or something like that?
Oh, hi, Martina. Yeah,
Hi.
what I did was for each, I created a spreadsheet with the types and categories of communication. And I read each post, and according to the content, I'll place them I'll fit them in the category or type of communication. But what do you mean by future plans? I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understood your question.
Yeah, opinion, was that one of your categories? Were there any opinions in this communication? Or
you mean like a subjective, an opinion?
Yeah.
Something, let's say, less neutral?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, no, I mean, I kept an eye on it, and I didn't find any evidence like subjective or like opinionated, except of course the symbolic posts. Of course, that those were the things that were less neutral. Let's say, oh, yeah, congrats to our governments, we are handling the COVID vaccination really well, that kind of stuff. So only like self-praising and self-appreciation posts, but nothing besides that.
No, yeah,
and I guess these are institutional pages, so they have they are more neutral. Although, but if I analyze political parties like you did, or political actors, specific political actors, I'm sure I would find plenty of these materials. But since it's the institutional pages are very neutral and to the point kind of content that I found there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for these interactions. We have another hand by Mr. Sauerberg. Is that a good pronunciation? Please. Oh, please, please, we don't hear you. Unmute yourself. Now it's good.
Oh, thank you. Okay, it's German. It's actually the southern part of Denmark going into, which is now Germany. Holstein, Schleswig-Holstein. Sauerberg. But it was 1700s.
Okay.
But I would like also to ask Priscilla, where is she? Did she go?
Yes, she's coming back.
I'm here.
Yeah. I would like to, one big issue that I've seen in England, Germany, and elsewhere is, has there been any proper campaign or information on the unwanted, of course, side effects of vaccination? Has that been a subject issue?
No, from the, I mean, on January 2021, Portugal and Spain, they weren't vaccinating people. They were like almost there, you know, getting the vaccines. But I didn't find any content about like side effects or any negative opinions or statements about the vaccines. Or they were pretty, on both pages, on both Facebook pages, they were pretty like clear on stay at home, or you can go out to the grocery shop at this time and these days. They were very informative about the restrictions, because I mean, the restrictions of course changed every week. So they were updating people on that. And also they were starting to do this campaign pro-vaccination, like, oh, soon we'll have vaccination. Soon we will share with you the plans, you know, how we're going to carry out the mass vaccination for COVID. So that's what I found in the posts from January this year, from January this year.
So it was just information on how to behave during the virus time, but not anything directly, because it has been very vital, yes, in many places, that fake news, so to speak, or news that it doesn't reflect reality at all, that you shouldn't get vaccinated because of there are so many who get sick and so on. And that is really, so I mean, to me, fake news, because it's wrong proportions between the safety you get from vaccination and the campaigns actually to distrust all government institutions.
Yeah, true, that's true. And not only these posts that I analyzed, they were like pro vaccines and giving recommendations on what to do or about the restrictions. They always had a link for further information, or here's a link for assistance if you need anything. If you think you have COVID, what to do, you know, they were very informative, not only in the post itself, but they also provide a link to the official government page that assists people with the COVID-19.
But as I understood it, what you were looking actually was also communication between authorities and the citizens. Isn't that right? And where you came out negative, that there was not very much of that. Isn't that true?
Yeah. My goal, I mean, because of the limitations of the size of the article and the scope of research, I only analyzed what the government wrote, what the government published, and not the citizens, the Facebook users, comments, reactions, etc. But from their communication of the government, I saw they handled Facebook as they would handle other media like TV or radio. They use it in a very one-way communication, like they're just providing content. They're not asking for feedback. They're not asking questions. They're not, I mean, obviously, especially during a pandemic, but they were not inviting people to go out to the street or to have talks, you know, with local representatives or whatever. It was very like one-way communication, like you have to do this, you shouldn't do this, this is what we recommend, here you can find more information. So that's what I found from the Facebook posts analyzed.
Thank you very much for this nice discussion. For some regions, this is really hot issue discussion, and we could make a session about that probably. Some other questions?
Yeah, a short one. Martina, I liked your presentation very much because you are getting into an area that is not very often in communication discussed, all the gray areas and all the hate speaks and so on. And you're right that there are certain laws about how much hate speak that you are permitted to do. And then you are trying to fine tune that. And I like that a lot.
Okay, once again, great. You would like to respond, Martina?
Well, thank you for your appreciation. And it's true that this gray zone can be analyzed a lot more. There is a lot more work to do, also in different languages, I think.
Yes, which is different.
Okay, thank you. I personally learned very much about the new perspective to look at the language in social media and to look in the articles in different way, including to look of graffiti and murals. It is really interesting. If no other questions to presenters, I would like to thank Swagen again to the organizers to bring us to talk about this thematic issue, and probably see you some next time in person. Thank you very much for participation.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Andjelka. Thank you very much, all the presenters, Thomai, Steen, Priscilla, Martina, all the wonderful presentations today, and a lot equivalent to the theme from the beginning of this conference. So even the workshop day of Sunday had similar things, questions, and interaction. What I would like to say to Steen is, because it was really interesting, and I think you are the only one, Steen, that hasn't written a paper on this. Maybe you could write something down, just an idea, if you are thinking about this, because this with graffiti and political communication was very impressive and powerful. So just an idea to share. And then, well, I invite you all at 3:20 Greek time to close this wonderful conference. And there are 2 or 3 surprises depending on the electricity thing, because here in Greece, I was informed that in Thessaloniki, colleagues had a problem with electricity cuts, so they were unable to join, but I hope we will be well enough. So for 3:20, we have some surprises from Greece, of course, and connection with Australia. So I would like you all there, and I hope to see you in a while to say goodbye and say some last words of this wonderful event of exchanging and knowledge sharing. Hello, everybody. Welcome at our last session, the celebration session, that we're going to celebrate what we have already felt and shared throughout the conference. My intention was not initially to stop the music because we are respecting time, but anyway, sorry, Louis. I did it just to finish with this. So speaking about our, okay, before our, speaking about our surprises, so we have Sivon and Johnny, or Socrates from Australia, hello. And maybe Haris from Greece, we will see, because he's in the island of Santorini, so the connection, we will see if he'll join us or not. And I might also try to say something like a song, but not to perform. I'm not a performer. I'm just wanted to share with you something special and important. So before doing something else, just to announce the best paper and the best poster that we had after a discussion with some of the members of the Vice President and the Academic Committee. So we have Miss Iliana De Pundi, PhD candidate in UK, with companion robots, the theoretical challenges in the study of human-machine communication. Congratulations, Iliana. I don't know if you are with us, but congratulations. Best paper, so we will send the certificate and a special gift just for you. And the best poster, Mr. Elias Damosi, difficult name. Congratulations, Ilya from USA, the best poster that the participants also voted for, narrating the self in a national context, a study of Barack Obama, the audacity of hope, an election campaign material. Congratulations. And a good continuation. We will continue interacting by email, and we will also send you a special gift and, of course, your certificate. Congratulations to everybody, all the participants of this wonderful conference. We have shared a lot, and we have learned that even through virtual meetings, exchanging communication, we can share things, we can communicate. Yes, it is tiring, but it is important to do with what we actually have. And I have named what I would like to say, music and dance, the ultimate mode of communication, because I really believe that it is by music and dance that we can share things. And this is the universal language. So let's finish with something. I will try to I would like to sing with you something, and I would like us to learn some Greek words that meant to be love me, because love is the most important, I mean, what we need and how we could resolve all political or other problems in the world. So love me, na m'agapas. I would like you all to try to pronounce na me agapas. All together, it's okay if we make noise. We are here to make noise now. Na me agapas. And it is great, great. But you pronounce so well, everybody. So a part of Dr. A, Nate, Carl, Steen, and that have a lot of experience with Greece, and of course, Sivon and Johnny and Sofia, you are all great. So it is a song of Pavlos Sidiropoulos, and it is called Na m'agapas. So we might try to sing the refrain together. And I will try. It's many years since I last used my guitar, but we are not here to perform. We're just here to say. So I would like you to be with me while we are singing the refrain. And it says, Na m'agapas, όσο μπορείς να μ' αγαπάς. Love you.
I
Yes.
would like to add something before. Margherita is very humble, but you should know that Margherita used to be an artist, and I used to hear her songs on YouTube when she was in Marseille. So don't be shy, Margherita. Show us your talent.
Okay. Thank you, Luis. You're very, very kind, but we're not here for this, but to learn να με αγαπάς όσο μπορείς να με αγαπάς.
Να μου αγαπάς.
Να με αγαπάς όσο μπορείς να με αγαπάς.
Να μου αγαπάς.
Which means love me as much as you can, just love me. Nothing more, nothing less. So, I don't know if
Opa!
Thank you for this. It was a great present for me, and it is very important because I used to sing this song 20 years ago in Corsica and then in Sardinia, and everybody participated. So it's a word, agapi, love, in any language that we should not hesitate to say. So I leave now the stage to Sivon and Johnny, or Socrates, with who I thank them a lot, because no matter if they are in some difficult situation, like we are all, maybe more, maybe less, they are here to share with us love, interaction, and have a good time with them. So Sophia, Sivon and Johnny also, I would like to say, are the kids of Sofia Karanikolas, our vice president, which we love a lot. So thank her a lot. Hello, Sophia. So the stage is yours.
It's very lovely to meet everyone, and thank you so much for having us here. We're just going to play 2 songs, and we were under the impression that maybe this was actually going to be communicated in Greek, so we chose 2 Greek songs, but I hope everyone still enjoys it. So thank you so much. Oh, sorry.
Oi.
was called Μέχρι να γίνουμε αγγελοί, which means until we become angels, which might be very fitting for the discussions that have been had today. This next one is Ραγίζει απόψε η καρδιά, also known as κανείς εδώ δεν τραγουδά.
Ράγιζει απόψε η καρδιά και το παγάδι όλα κομμάτια έγινε σπασμένο
Bravo, bravo, bravo.
I'm very emotional. I
Don't
I
cry.
cannot speak.
Okay, I will do the speak for you. So I think
Give me a sponge.
I think I am going to speak on behalf of all the participants, hopefully, which are here and which have been here together with us these days. And I want to say thank you for this, not only for today, but for the last 3 days, where we tried to kind of get some energy to still fight for a better world. And on the one side, this is a very happy notion when we look inside in, which is inside our kind of bubble. It's so energizing, but the challenge might be not to look outside in, because that's only the new ease that can talk about this perspective from the outside inside this very energetic group. But I want just to remind that we also should think about looking inside out and getting the message, if possible, to much more people in the world than our bubble. So, but nevertheless, I want it to conclude on the positive side with the yes head and not the critical no head. And I want to kind of explore, not only explore the bubble, but also extend the bubble I was talking about. And Niklas Luhmann has told us that systems are self-referential. He's talking about autopoiesis, and they cannot communicate with each other. So the political system, power plus minus, cannot communicate, for example, directly with the financial system, money plus minus. They cannot communicate with the care system, plus minus care or love. They cannot communicate with other systems, pedagogy, for example, learning, not learning. But here comes the good news.
But we have Harris as well. He's waiting to
But
continue
here comes
a little
the
bit.
good. Here comes the good news. You will get. I get to the point. Here comes the good news, and this is communication can communicate, and the communication of different systems, they can communicate. And in order to do that, I want to send you a gift, Margarita, and you are allowed to have an idea what is the gift. Have you any guess what it could be?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. So it's actually a tiny garden. So it's this one. You fill it with water. You take one of these hemp mats to preserve the water. Then you take some seeds, for example, broccoli, and produce your own tiny garden sprouts.
Yes.
So, and it's called Have a Good Start. And I think our conference not only had a good start, but also continued to hopefully in the future have also a lot of influence. And please, Harris.
Thank you. Thank you, dear Carl. Thank
Very
you,
good.
everybody. You are amazing. Everybody, thank you so much. I feel it, Carl. Thank you so much for your speech. Thank you, everybody. I will ask.
Margarita,
Yes.
before Alice to conclude, maybe I can just give a few words. I mean, these 2
Yes,
days
of course.
have been.
And we will leave Harris if possible to give us a
Conclude.
small energetic dance at the end.
So thank you for all the participation, all the participants also with your dedication. I really found the word dedication as the key word for this conference. As I told Margarita months ago, it was really a challenge to create a virtual conference, even though we are online, and to see dedicated people. I think about Michael actually flew from US to Greece in order to get the conference. I need to wake up early, to sleep kind of late, and Caroline also to be in the conference. I mean, all those people actually participate in the conference and give their own. It's really amazing, and I think we are going into a better future, understanding that this might be the new normal. But the new normal cannot impeach us to go further in the future. So that was just my few words, and thank you, Margarita, for the opportunity, and hopefully we're still working together.
Thank you. I told you my daughter is 5 years old. Maybe in 15 years old, you are the perfect guy for any girl in any country, the perfect boy. And thank you so much, Louis. Thank you. We couldn't have made it without you. Thank you so much.
We try to arrange a marriage between my kids and your kids, for sure.
Okay. Okay, that's a deal. Harris, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I can hear you very well. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, you are in the beach.
Yes, look.
Oh, great.
I'm in the beach, I'm in Santorini. And this morning when I woke up, I had an idea. We have more than 40
Introduce
degrees
yourself,
here.
Harris. Introduce yourself. Say who you are first.
Sorry. I'm Haris Bakopoulos. I'm a teacher of Greek traditional dances. I live in Athens, but now I'm here in Santorini on vacations. I don't want to say a lot. Just I heard songs and someone said Opa. So I think that we're ready to dance. That's why it's a good idea to learn Sirtaki, the most popular Greek dance. I would like to dance with me, if you want. I'm gonna show you some steps on Sirtaki. And you see Zorbas, when he danced it, he was outside in an open air place. That's why I decided to do it here, outside at the beach, to have a look at the sea and to dance. I hope you can hear me because an hour ago started a wind at about 4 or 5 before. Today,
we can listen to you, don't worry.
Oh, that's good, that's good. So, are you ready to dance?
Yes, we are.
Good. So, let's start. I'll put my phone here. I hope you can see me. And at the beginning, let's start with 6 first steps. I'm gonna turn around so you can see better. Like this. Hear me? And let's start with the first 6 steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Easy. It's easy. Are you dancing with me or I'm doing?
Yes, we participate, Harris.
Thank you. So, Again, let's do again the first 6 steps. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. Now, step, just kick. Again, step, stay, kick. From the beginning. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. Step, just kick. Okay? Second kick, third kick, and close. Again, then from the beginning. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. Step, just kick. Kick, kick, close. Easy. So let's put some music. Do you hear it? Yeah. Let's go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. And close. And again. 1, 3, 4, 5, 6. Step. Kick. 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 And close. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 5, and 6. And step. Kick. Kick. Close. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 5, and 6. Step. Close. 1, 2, 3. Close. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Step. Kick. Close. 1, 2, 3. Step. Just. Kick. Move faster. Three steps and 2 kicks go. 1, 2, 3, kick. 1, 2, 3, kick. Open your hands. Level 1, 2, 3, kick and kick. 1, 2, 3, kick and kick. Faster now. 1, 2, 3. I hope you enjoy it. And I hope you dance with me because I couldn't see you.
We did, we did.
They tried.
It would be nice if we could be together because you see, Greek dance is feeling, is touch. Without touch, we cannot have Greek traditional dance. But now, under of these circumstances, I hope it was nice. And I hope you enjoy it. And I hope you dance with me because I couldn't see you. We did. And I hope you dance with me because I couldn't see you. We did. And I hope you dance with me because I couldn't see you. We did. And I hope you dance with me because I couldn't see you. We did. And I hope you dance with me because I couldn't see you. We did. And I hope you dance with me because I couldn't see you. We did. And I hope you dance with me because I couldn't see you. We did. And I hope you dance with me because I couldn't see you. We did. And I hope you dance with me because I couldn't see you. We did. And I hope you dance with me because I couldn't see you. We did. And I hope you dance with me because I couldn't see you. We did. And I hope you dance with me because I couldn't see you. We did. And I hope you dance with me because I couldn't see you. We did. And I hope you dance with me because I couldn't see you. We did. And I hope you dance with me because I couldn't see you. We did. And I hope you dance with me because I couldn't see you. We did. you feel good, you liked it, and you enjoyed it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Harry. Thank you, everybody. Love you all.
I'd like to thank you to Margarita that you gave me this occasion to be with you.
And we can smell the sea and breathe the air of Santorini now.
Nice. It's nice.
Many kisses to your wonderful wife and kids. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you. Many kisses to you. Hope to see you sometime.
Yes, in person. We give
person,
an appointment when we can. We will fix something, I don't know, in an island or by the sea somewhere with all the participants that will join us, and we will have a nice time because life is too beautiful, too small to be wasted.
Yeah, and we have to taste every moment. We have to taste it. Nice.
So
Thank
bye,
you.
everybody. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.
Hi, everyone. Take care.
Hi.
Thank you, Margarita.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.